Tell me when you start recording.
I already did.
Oh, okay. Hey everyone! Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for another session of UWS Ceramics #NeverQuit. Today we're joined by the Spring 2022.
Okay, that's it. It just showed the side.
In this segment, we're going to learn how to load a kiln. So, specifically an electric kiln. So, this is one of our electric kilns. Sarah, will you please come and show the viewers the inside of the kiln? Mm-hmm. Thank you. What we do, it's a very simple process. So, for example, Sarah, will you come back, please? Let's say that these tiles that are in there are what we are firing. We can get the tiles, get the whole footprint of the kiln shelf. This is the kiln shelf. Get that footprint filled with work, and then we find over on the shelf, we find a brick that corresponds with the size of the work that you have in there. So right now these are tiles. We were able to stack the tiles, but we don't want to stack too much because all that weight can crack. So we only stacked about 3 or 4 tiles on one another, and that fits under this size of post. So we put those posts in. We use a 3-post system, and that's very, very important. This is probably the most important part of loading. You want to only use a 3-post system, because with 3 posts, you'll always have an even plane, right? If I was to put in a 4th, inevitably, like there's probably some variation between the height of those, and you'd have a shelf that would wobble, right? And when you put weight on a wobble like that, it'll snap the shelf, okay? So, always a 3-post system. Then what you do is you can put another shelf right on top of that. And the next thing that's important is, let's say we're now going into loading works that are a little bit taller. So we can get some taller kiln furniture. But the most important thing you're doing here is you have to load post on top of post. You can't do something like this, because again, if you're loading like that, there's no support system underneath this post, and with weight, that'll snap the shelf. You see broken shelves all over in here. That's because shelves aren't very strong. So just like post and lintel construction, when you're driving and seeing buildings being built, it's always wall or support beam on support beam. So post on top of post. That goes with the large kilns, these kilns, no exceptions. Okay, it's really important. Other than that, you just continue going up, and you have to be mindful and careful of the inside of the kiln. There's a little thing called a pyrometer that is our temperature reader that's sticking out of the wall. Be really careful not to bump that, because they break easily and they do cost a lot of money. So, yeah. Audience, do you have questions so far?
No.
Not right now? Okay. Well, that's all I have for loading, so we'll stop there. Hey everyone, Mike here again. Thanks for joining us for another session of UWRF Ceramics #NeverQuit. Today we're going to talk about programming the kiln, the electric kiln. This year, this is an electric kiln, and we're going to program a bisque today. So, Sierra, if you would just come down here a little bit closer, thank you. What we do when we program a kiln, there's a few different options. The kiln comes with a factory program just called slow, medium, fast. It's called cone fire. Technically, you could use that, but for what we're doing, it is a little bit too fast. We're doing community bisque firings, so there's always a range of like some works that might be a little bit wet still. So we do very slow firings. And specifically, we do the ramp hold mode right here. So each time you come in to program this, you would hit ramp hold. And then it says user. It says user because you can save various programs in here. So you can be user 1 for, let's say, a super slow program. You can program it in as user 2, 3, 4 for different firing ramps, which is nice, but it just gets messed up because it's a communal kiln. So you always have to check this before you commit to it. So we hit ramp hold. Oh God. It already had started, okay? So this is, it said user, we're committing to being user 2, that's fine. And now I'm gonna hit enter. Now, that right there means how many segments do you want? For this firing, this can be a basic firing. I'm just going to do 3 simple segments, okay? So I'm gonna commit to that and hit enter. That RA means ramp. So our first ramp, first of 3, we just committed to 3. We are going to do 75 degrees an hour. That's what that 75 refers to. We're going to commit to it. And to what temperature? You go, it's 75 to 185. That's what this is right now. And that's actually what we want to do. So I'm going to hit enter. Now, this is a bisque firing. And like I said, there's work going in that might be wet still. So what we're going to do, and it's not just wet. Sometimes the work is thick. We want to really do a super slow firing on the front end. So water boils at 212 Fahrenheit. This is where we went up to 185, just a bit under 212 to be safe. And we're gonna hold it at that temperature for 10 hours, okay? So it's just gonna be warming up basically and just wicking off any water that's in here. So I'm going to commit to that 10 hours. And now it's ramp 2. For ramp 2, we can go a little bit faster. We'll go 150 degrees an hour. That's what that is. Commit to 1150 Fahrenheit, which is fine. That the from about 1,000 to 1150, it is important to not really go too fast. That's the point where the clay is turning and going from being mud to actual ceramic. So we don't want to go too much faster than that 100 or 150 through that process. So we'll go 150 to 1150. We don't need to do a hold at that point. All the water's already out. Now we can just floor it, okay? But these kilns can't really go faster than this. They might not even go that fast, but I always just program them to 275. All the way to our endpoint temperature, which for the sake of this firing, we are going to do, for bisque firings, you can do a range from anywhere from about 1680 to about 2000. We are going to fire some earthenware work in here, or earthenware glazeware in here, so I'm actually going to take this up to 2000. If I didn't have glazeware in here, I'd actually take this up to cone 08 or 06, so around 1888 Fahrenheit. All right. So, but I do want to put some glazeware in here, so I'm going to commit to that. We are going to do a little bit of a hold on the end, and usually if there wasn't glazeware, you don't need to do a hold. A hold is where it actually stays at that same temperature for a set amount of time. That's 5 minutes. That's not 5 hours. 5 hours would be over here. That's 5 minutes. This would be 50 minutes. You get it. So I'm committing. Alarm, you can just put it at 9999. You can program an alarm to go off if to alert you that the firing's done, but we don't need to do that. So just hit enter. Now it says stop and it's ready to go. So all you'd have to do now is hit start. But I shouldn't have done it that way because the lid's open. What you can do is, you might be like, oh, I'm old, and put your hand right here, which, by the way, don't do that, period, because these bricks are weak. But there's power going through all those elements right now, and if you touch them when the kiln's going like it is right now, you'll get zapped, okay? So just make sure, before you start, the lid always has to be shut. So, yeah. Do we have any questions, class?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Never quit.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Okay. we put the stands before we do another, so we have an idea of how tall we want to do it, or does it matter?
I like just loading them and deciding.
Fair enough.
Very smart.
I don't know why. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
I think we should go for taller-ish things like Rebecca's.
Yeah.
Try to leave like the spots where the
Yes.
coaster's supposed to go.
And it's okay if it overhangs a little bit.
You broke your handle?
What happened to your handle?
I don't know, someone moved it and
Oh no.
that's what they
It's beautiful.
One of my favorite things about loading is looking at everyone's pieces.
What?
One of my favorite things about loading is looking at everyone's pieces.
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry. It'll be cute. It'll be cute. I like seeing that, like, how it fits like a puzzle. I like seeing how it fits like a puzzle.